like to thank the board and the nominating committee. Let me see if I can get my notes straight here. I had been coming up here to Northwoods, oh golly, since I was 10 years old, I believe. And I first came up with my parents to Carl Marty's North. Some of you might know where that was. And then when I was like in my 20s, after I got out of service, I started coming up here. And finally decided I'm gonna move up here. And in '76, I moved into St. Germain. And that's when I actually started to bowl up here. And I do have to say, all of these things don't happen to an individual without support from so many different people. And there's a few that I'd certainly like to thank, and bear with me as I go through some of this stuff. First of all, I'd like to thank my daughter and my son for putting up with me. You're the ones that keep me going. I'd also like to thank my siblings, sticking together in times were kind of tough, but we made it through. So let me get back to, I bowled in Violet County, as Donnie had mentioned, in the basement. And I met a whole, that was originally owned, I believe, by Joe Richards, Rose's dad, Timmy's uncle. And that's when I started bowling with a guy called Art Waldvogel and Cord Hillsbeck and some other people I don't remember. But I thank them for inviting me on their team, and that was a good time. I also met, I believe at that time, I met Kenny Adovich there. And I eventually ended up bowling with them. And we went to a whole bunch of different tournaments, 9-pin tournaments and state tournaments. I do remember going to a Channel 7 pin buster. I believe Daryl Drager was driving Maxine. And I said, aren't we supposed to turn here? And Mr. Blue Eyes said, oh no, I got the right way. Well, by the time we realized we made the wrong turn, we were in Minnesota. Needless to say, we were never there. We never made the turn. Then there was another time with Del Robish. We took his RV, me, Dantes, Del Robish, Kenny. And Kenny tried to convince me to play dice. And I said, Kenny, I don't play dice. I don't gamble. I'm just not a good gambler. And he kept on me and kept on me. And I finally said, I'll bet you $5 that I never win one dice game, there and back. It cost me, I think, $55, but I got my $5 from him. So anyway, once we get, I'm going to move all over here, so forgive me. You know, we got done bowling in the basement of the Violet Cinema. I believe it was in '78 that we moved from there to a new building built by Warren Bentley, him and his wife Dolores, and son Mark, and daughters Deb and Sherry. They had that lanes for quite a while, and certainly needed all the help there, because that's when I got involved with the association and with the youth bowlers. And Donnie was great help to me. He would do the business end with the sodas and all that, and I'd take care of the kids along with a guy named John Adam, without the S. And George Ratliff, I believe, was the other one. And John would always handle the really small kids and then pass them on to me as they were able to deliver a bowling ball. And there's been a lot of you here, Donnie Crass, I see, Donnie Tess, and all of the girls. I've had a lot of you in my junior league, and now I'm finding I've had some of their grandchildren. So we did take some of our groups to youth state, and I don't believe any of them did any less than like 15th place. Eric, you were in 8th place, and your team with Donnie, 2nd place? Something, yeah. Anyway, there was a lot of them, and we've had some escapades. I've always said, when you're with me, there's going to be an adventure. And we've had a few adventures. Donnie won't let me forget the one.
I can tell it later.
You can. You're going to tell it later? Okay. And I bowled on the traveling league, as Jim had said, and that was in Eagle Lanes. At the time, it was with Warren Bentley, and later on, Mike Ty, who owned it. Artist Pier was the manager there, and then after Mike Ty had it, Marty Gurka had it. And all of those people were helpful with me during my time with the youth league, so I could spend the time on the lanes with the youth. After Marty Gurka had it, Brian Fink had it. And now the current owner, Mike Kachurik, had it. And as I said, Donnie Tess worked with all of those people and helped me tremendously with the youth. National tournament. I've gone to national tournaments. There was, during the traveling league, I met a guy called Rick Larson, who had invited me to go to nationals. I believe it was '92, and it was in Corpus Christi. Corpus Christi. 92. And I think Bill Fleischman was my partner at the time. I can't remember it, but I think so. Well, I'm forever thankful for Rick for inviting me, because I've been going there for 27 years. And I would have to say the best I could do was in 1913 and 1997. 1913, all events. So I'm trying, but I'm getting too old, I guess. I don't know. And I've been to a lot of them, and Jeff Pluff and his boy Nick, and Lyle Kuhlman. That's who I was with when I bowled in 1913. Lyle Kuhlman and his dad Larry, me, Rick, and Wally Gertner. I don't think Wally's here tonight, but it was fun. All the houses that I've been into, Chuck Savage, Woodruff Lanes, later run by Lyle, Island City Lanes, Bruce, and Tomahawk Lanes, Rick Ruby. We used to get home at 4 in the morning from Tomahawk Lanes. And then, of course, Hodag Lanes. I think Tony ran that for a while, Tony Schultes, yeah. And now I believe Mike owns that too. And all of my partners, I've had different partners at nationals, but mainly now I go with Glenn Lazowski and Rick, and there's two teams. Mike's team. Mikey Moore, who was my partner, used to be Skinhead, who was my partner. He always called me his partner from hell. So, and when you know, Alice had mentioned that we did the lane certification, 6832 is my number. But it was fun. I remember certifying Crandon, T&M lanes out of Land O'Lakes, here at Eagle Lanes. Where was another? But anyway, there's just a lot of different places and a lot of work that goes into that. You know, sometimes I did it by myself. Just to give you an idea, the last time we certified the lanes, when I was still the outgoing manager, I think 6 guys did what I did. But it was fun. It's been a blast. You know. Me and Donnie years ago went to that's where one of these pictures is it's on your little brochures there. We went to a Pro-Am tournament. I don't even remember what year it was, but bowled against Eddie Resch, Mark Williams, and Jim Stefanich. And it was just cool because I beat him. And during all of this time, of course, I had a lot of help from Timmy, who's trying to leave right now. You know, but Timmy's always helping organize the teams going to state. And I've had tremendous help and patience from Phil Laporte, and now the new director, Don Hildebrand, and Carol and Gloria, to try and get these teams put in on time and get the money. You know how some of you guys know how that goes. So I just don't have enough to say about the state people. Having said that, I am very honored with this. I'm flabbergasted. I never expected anything like this. So I thank you all for coming. I thank the board. I thank the nominating committee. Have a good night.